Hi everyone and welcome back to B2B NAV. This week we are going to be discussing our latest product launch or new service offering from BDB, which has been lovingly titled Virtual Visitor since the start. That's the one thing that hasn't changed and evolved over time. So I guess what we wanted to do in this podcast today was give you a bit of an insight into what it's like bringing a brand new product or service to life from an agency perspective, a transparent view on some of the difficulties we've had and also where we're up to with the solution as we stand here today, but also bring into life some of the benefits that Virtual Visitor can offer our existing clients, our prospects, and also beyond B2B into the B2C arena as well. Mm-hmm. So, should we start off with what is Virtual Visitor? Do you want to go for that one, or do you want me to?
That's a tricky one. So, Virtual Visitor is as we're calling it, a brand experience portal, in that it's not a webinar platform, it's not an event replacement, it's bigger than that, and that's kind of where we're thinking as well in terms of what it is. Anything else you want to add there?
No, not for the meantime. I guess it's good to give the context of where this all came about from, I guess. So at BDB we do a lot of work around physical events and exhibitions, which is prior to the pandemic and prior to COVID-19. We had a portfolio of clients who also attended as kind of a core part of their annual marketing calendar, various global events, exhibitions and trade shows. And we provide full integrated services for those trade shows, so stand design, stand build, graphics, digital elements to the stands, as well as virtually every other aspect of a stand, from build to strike down, we can offer that. And as part of the development of that service line, so our exhibitions side, we were looking as a business to work out how we can bring stands to life for clients in a more engaging manner beyond either just a flat render of a stand or a floor plan or whatever it may be. And we had this vision of being able to kind of walk people through a stand, I guess was the thought process. And I've got some friends who work in architecture who are doing this with house builds, who are doing this with a mix of kind of virtual reality, and even the full headsets of walking people through their visions of what a house could look like. And I thought there was merit in that for us to play with that as kind of an exhibition tool to bring a stand to life for a client. And then February or March time 2020, I pinged an email to people in the office saying I think there's something in this virtual space more beyond just selling a stand, but also having something that could work in a complementary way with a physical exhibition stand. Then the pandemic hit. So we're not going to dwell on that today, but obviously the disruption that caused to physical events and exhibitions was phenomenal. And I think it's the easiest way I've been describing it as a complete decimation of that whole scene. So all global exhibitions were either cancelled or deferred, subsequently deferred further or cancelled, and I know some events are taking place at the minute, but not many. So then we saw
the rise of the webinar.
That's a great way of phrasing it. Yeah, the rise of the webinar. So webinars have been around for how long, Ollie?
Too many years to count. So
webinars, for those that don't know, is basically a guided presentation online, is what I would call it. They would claim it's interactive. It can have elements of interactivity, but I call it death by PowerPoint 2020. So it's walking somebody through a slide deck ultimately, with an expert speaker. It can be pre-recorded, can be live. You can take a bit of Q&A at the end, and that's principally it.
And I'm not speaking for everybody, they're typically not that engaging.
No, I'd say they're quite boring. So in the sense of, it's not like a round table where you're looking at experts, you're looking at engagement and interactivity. It's much more, here's a presentation, I'm going to walk you through it. 45, 50 minutes worth of presentation with a 5 to 10 minute Q&A at the end, typically. And most of our clients have been doing webinars for some time, and it seems to be a great opportunity to evidence thought leadership, and also to gain some traction and data, because typically our clients are getting some really good response rates to the webinars as well. So it's not to say webinars don't have a place. It was just amusing during the physical exhibitions going down that webinars were suddenly thrust to the forefront, and nobody said webinars anymore. Everybody was speaking about their virtual events they were doing. We looked at what opportunities were around in the marketplace around webinars. I say we were already doing several of those with our clients, but wanted to elevate the offering further and provide more of an integrated.
Because a webinar is let's say, fairly one-way conversation. People can get involved in chat if chat's enabled. People can ask questions. There's always the issue of, is there time to ask questions? Do they actually answer any live questions? Are they only doing pre-prepared questions live and your question doesn't get answered, or are there just too many for them to answer? So there is a bit of two-way conversation, but it's primarily one way. So I think one of the key things we started thinking about was, when a client attends an exhibition, there's a lot more going on. There is genuine two-way conversation, and not only two-way but one-on-one conversation. So you can go and speak to a representative of a company that you're interested in, specifically about how their product services might apply to you in your business, in your situation, and that can really spark interest and help drive things forward that it's just not possible in a public webinar space. I think that's one of the areas we're looking at. And then also the fact that people don't sign up to a webinar to go and listen to you talk about products typically. But that's a key aspect of what you get in an exhibition space. You might have that interesting content, but a lot of the time the people attending an exhibition are buyers looking for, again, products or services that will be a solution to whatever challenge they're currently having. So it's, again, trying to incorporate more than just the thought leadership aspect, which is, we all acknowledge is very important and a key part of the buying journey, but going beyond that and being able to offer different tools and functionality to people at different levels of that journey, to people that also want to talk to a salesperson, that also want to explore products and solutions.
Well, I think that's what was interesting about it. So we started then considering, alongside our clients and working with them, around why do they attend the exhibitions and what were they missing out on if the physical exhibitions weren't going to be there in the meantime. So a lot of it was around engagement, a lot around brand awareness, and a lot of lead generation. So for a lot of our clients, where maybe their 6 events they go to across that year have gone, what were they going to do in the meantime? And webinars, as you say, certainly maybe ticks the box from a thought leadership perspective, maybe from a loose lead gen perspective, but in terms of that meetings, the engagement, the product displays, and all the other aspects to what you do typically achieve, coupled with Zoom, Teams fatigue, and people being tired of sat behind the camera on the laptop on a flat kind of interaction, was where Virtual Visitor was really born out of, really, because I was convinced I wanted to develop something that was beyond a moment in time, where we didn't want to offer something. If you think about an exhibition, it goes on for a week or a day or 3 days. You build the stand, you strike it down, it's gone. And for me, having more of a perpetual presence where you can consistently invite people into your world and educate them around your products, your services, and whatever it might be, was one of the core considerations for me, at a time that suits you, where you can take control of it, and you don't have to be reliant on the exhibition organisers telling you when you can showcase your products and services. So we looked at what was out there in the marketplace to sort of was there anything out there in terms of virtual events, virtual event environments, that was kind of catering for this need and the gap in the market? And my conclusion was not really.
Yeah, I think we looked at, I don't know how many different types of solutions in this sort of space, but most of them aren't that sophisticated. At least the ones we looked at. I'm not saying there aren't other great solutions out there, but the ones that we found, we didn't feel like would be a good fit for our clients. We didn't feel like the experience they offered was particularly great. Others offered a really great webinar experience, but nothing beyond that. Others were just kind of clunky and hard to use. I think
there's so many different aspects to it, wasn't there? Because some were designed incredibly poorly. So one thing to say in the virtual event space is, at the minute, the bar's low, I think. Let's be honest, the bar's low. So you look at it from a design perspective, which isn't everything, but visually you want to be engaged, you want to feel excited by what you're doing, and particularly in that virtual space as well, you're trying to hold people's attention. So it's even more difficult to hold attention. So you've got to provide something that's quite provocative and quite exciting.
It's about delivering the experience, the whole brand experience.
Absolutely. So there's design elements to it, but then there was kind of off-the-shelf packages, I would call them. So it's not tailored to you and your needs. It's more like, here's the virtual event you can have. Here's the stand you can have. And there's nothing kind of bespoke to bring the individual virtual identity to life, which was delivered this quite flat experience, I felt. And then finally was the data side of things, in terms of the content you could house there, the data and the insights and the analytics you could gather from the platforms wasn't particularly sophisticated either. And maybe that's because they'd spun out quite quickly some of these things out of the pandemic. the virtual event kind of offerings that were there for the
Yeah, because I think if we'd have, I can't say for sure, but if we'd have found the perfect solution, our first port of call might have been how do we partner with them to help bring that to our clients, as we've done that with another technology providers in the past. But in this case, it just didn't feel like there was anything strong enough that we'd want to be able to embark on that together, on that journey together with.
No, absolutely. So I think a lot of stories tend to start here that if you can't find it, well, build it. So that's primarily what we've done, which is why it's almost difficult in a way to summarise in one sentence what virtual visitor is, because it does cater for so many different aspects and provides that longevity and kind of future-proofed solution as well. So we're in the throes of developing our first. We've been through various demos. I don't know how many demos we've done. We've done a lot of demos, haven't we, to clients, with various demo environments, bringing it to life. But obviously, we've been engaged now with a strong pipeline of development for live events and perpetual platforms that we're building for our clients. And whenever this goes out, we'll try and share some links to the websites, to some content that can hopefully make this bring to life. Because I'm conscious it is a very visual. Solution, and it's very difficult to describe sometimes, but I guess the easiest way for me to think about it was if you are, and we mirror it against events and exhibitions, but it can be used for every aspect. I guess it could be used for innovation days, client days, training days, internal team days, but the easy link really was always the exhibitions, wasn't it?
I think one of the interesting things that to me at least is the fact that when I joined BDB 5 years ago, one of the first conversations I had was about trying to bring a client's lab to life. How could they bring that to life? And I think over the years we've talked about different solutions here and there, whether that's video, whether that's VR and things like that. Whereas with Virtual Visitor, we finally have the ability to really help bring to life what a client has in terms of like those labs, or what other equipment or specialty equipment they might have in their premises that can help elevate them above competition, to show how specialist they are, to show their internal processes, to show how everything works, without needing to get somebody on a flight to come to your actual office.
No, but I think that's a big, the pandemic certainly has thrust this more to the front, but I personally I can't see it going back to the way it was, where people are going to jump on planes, trains, automobiles, whatever it may be, spending a lot of money on travel, a lot of money on subsistence, forget the carbon footprint and the sustainability angle to it as well. But also people are continuing to do business, from what I understand, and from speaking to peers and so on. And obviously it's a challenging time at the minute. However, people are continuing to succeed, and they don't need to necessarily be face-to-face as often. So I think it'd be more special, more meaningful when you get together with people face-to-face. I think events and exhibitions will occur, but in the meantime, how do you bring those products and services to life? So I think that's where the virtual visitor play certainly comes into it. So I guess thinking about the live environment we're working on at the minute and bringing that to life for a client, one of the key aspects for it is for me that it is truly bespoke to them. So there's no prescribed models, or there's no here's what you can have. Every single aspect of this environment and world that we've built for the client is around them. So from the exterior of the building, the entrance, the walk up, the reception, the thought leadership area in terms of the auditorium, where they've got a mixture of live content and pre-recorded content, so that it can cater for all the webinar functionality we discussed earlier in terms of the engagement aspects, so polls, Q&A, live responses as well, because sometimes I think during webinars you end up with a Q&A at the end, but you could have been asking things as you go. So you've got that kind of functionality built into it as well. And then meetings are an interesting one. Do you want to? I think that's been a really interesting development point on this.
Yeah. So meetings is one that I think when we had our first real session on trying to plan all the functionality we wanted out, meetings is one that we initially wanted and then didn't think we'd be able to technically achieve. Yeah. But I'm happy to say that we did manage to cross that barrier. So
that was a real challenging one though for me, because I think other aspects of it you clearly could get to grips with quite quickly, quite easily, develop something that was really meaningful for clients.
We've seen webinar platforms. We know it's possible to give a presentation over the internet. Live chat exists. Yeah. We know it's there. The ability to show off products, well, to some extent that's what a website is. Whereas having a live meeting embedded in your browser isn't that common, and being able to do that so that somebody can say I want a meeting now or at some point later today is.
But I think that's one of the crucial points, though, because for a lot of our clients, they go to exhibitions to meet people, and I don't mean this from a new business perspective. It could be suppliers, it could be customers, it could be prospects. Obviously, it could be their own team. For global businesses coming together at a key exhibition. So the meeting aspects of it was one of the core, not pushbacks, but I guess challenges that was raised from clients, wasn't it, about that engagement? How do I get that engagement? How do I get that face-to-face interaction? And it was a tricky one. It was a tricky one to overcome. But do you want to give an overview of kind of some of the options that are now available within Virtual Visit in terms of meetings and so on?
Yeah, so at the minute, the way we're working on it is that you've, in this case, got the option to have a number of meeting rooms. 3 is the number we're currently working with, but the user will be able to go into this environment. They'll be able to engage with a chatbot to look at the available meeting slots and meeting times that are available. We can work with kind of increments of 15 minutes in meeting time. So but at the minute we're currently working with short meetings, so 15-minute slots. You'll be able to look at that, compare it to your own calendar or your own availability. Obviously, you know your own availability. So let's say you're free at 10, you select that 10 o'clock slot, you click book, and you'll get a confirmation email sending that to you. And that's
all pulled within the platform,
yeah.
Which is one of the key considerations for us as well, because you've got somebody into this world, your environment, and we didn't want you to have to leave that environment at any point to go out to external software or even an external window. It was one of my bugbears. I know I was annoying you all with it, but I just wanted to keep people within that space.
It's giving you an integrated experience. You feel like you're experiencing one platform. Obviously from our back end point of view, we're working with a number of different technologies here to pull all this together, but the user doesn't see that. The user gets a seamless experience that makes it feel like they're in this virtual event as opposed to just using different technologies all strung together.
I think the fact on the spot they can have a meeting, they can drop in, they can book it, they can go and engage alongside speaking about any content they've consumed on the day. I think it's a real special aspect of the platform, but it's just a really interesting one to watch pan out and trying to figure that out, how we did that one.
And you can do it differently as well. So the current environment that we're working with, they're set up more as meeting rooms for other different types of businesses. So I think when we look to have our own event in there, there's a good chance we'll use those more as breakout rooms. So instead of it being a one-on-one conversation, that might end up being a group conversation with a couple of people from B2B, and then multiple clients and prospects all in the same room, able to chat and ask questions and discuss things together. Again, just like you would get on a real event stand. Somebody ends up in a conversation and somebody else is listening and asks their questions too.
And then in terms of, I guess, we're giving a very quick overview here, but you've got the receptionist who's kind of guiding you around, who can tell you about your agenda, who can direct you in certain ways. We've also got the thought leadership kind of auditorium area where you go to view that thought leadership and engage at that level. We've talked around the meeting rooms. We've even talked around the labs that you can create and the space you can create there to bring your expertise to life. But I guess the missing piece of the puzzle is what we term the experience hub at the minute. So the main aspect to it. So if you think about once you've done that webinar, imagine all those visitors that you dragged in also being able to learn about your products and your services and to bring them to life in a really engaging manner. And this can be an exhibition stand. It doesn't have to be. It could be a room, it can be a building, it can be...
One of the questions we got asked was, can it be... Could we have something on like a New York skyline, like a rooftop bar? If you want to host a cocktail thing, you absolutely can do. It
can literally be designed to fit your needs. But I guess if we stick with the analogy of an exhibition stand for the meantime, because it's probably the easiest one for people to visualise, and housed within the different zones on your stand, just as you would have in a physical world, you can place content, products, service overviews. So I guess sticking with the products, if it's a physical product or a prototype or something that you want to bring to life, they can be done in 3D models that you can pick up, engage, play with,
rotate
in any direction you'd like
to. See it kind of break apart and see what's going on inside it. So we've prepared some examples of that. So you can, particularly if you're a manufacturer that creates something that's part of a larger whole, then it's great to be able to kind of zoom in. Let's say it's automotive, for example. Zoom in on the car and let's see what parts are relevant to you. So like get rid of the roof, get rid of everything else that's not relevant. Let's zoom in on that bolt, for example.
Well, the prototyping is one of the things that I think is really interesting about it. And I know I realise 3D models have been around for a while, but not in this kind of way of bringing it into an environment and into your world. But a lot of our clients either don't really have an end product or a prototype, do they? It's either an ingredient, let's just say, that goes into something else. It goes into a a protein bar, a protein shake, a truffle bomb, whatever else we've looked at recently with various clients. But the ability to, because you can build the 3D models or the prototypes already exist for a hamburger or whatever it may be, the ability to drill down, as you say, and kind of look within a product, I think is quite a cool consideration in the B2B space, where the natural reaction is, well, we don't have products, and we don't have prototypes. Well, not in the real world, but the ability to bring them to life virtually and show them in situ, I think is pretty clever. And also the large scale or miniaturization things around product displays is actually quite interesting as well. So quite often, you know, when we work with Tata Steel, we were asked to put plane wings, vehicle doors, all these wonderful products on a stand, and you are limited by the weight of the wall, the height of the event, the floor space where you could and couldn't drill, and kind of because the virtual visitor is literally beyond the limitations of the physical world, it gives you that ability to think differently and think outside the box of how you bring those products to life. And thinking about the automotive side of things, the miniaturization aspect I think is quite cool as well sometimes, that our clients do something so small that it almost isn't tangible, where you can't engage with it, whereas virtually, again, well, we can shrink it, grow it, make it bigger, and give the ability to actually engage with that product as well. And then I guess I'm conscious of time, but in terms of the content side of things, because content, I'd say this is the most important aspect of virtual visitor, but we always come to it last probably, but in the sense of content marketing and content generally gets a bit of a kick in when you can't prove the worth of it. So at a physical event, when you've got a brochure or a flyer or a spec sheet or whatever it may be, how do you know whether that's actually resulted in any sales or any tangible activity, other than you've got rid of 1,000 brochures over a day or whatever the stat may be? So
just kind of hoping that some of that turns into business. Now, obviously, some of it does, and that's why companies tend to go to events, but you don't have that kind of ability to measure it. And you're also typically only able to share, at least for most of the exhibitions I've gone to, kind of that brochure level content, where it's people that have already pretty much made a decision. Whereas with Virtual Visitor, there's an entire spectrum of content that we can offer to people at all sorts of stages of that buying process. The webinar side of things for people potentially that have only just learning about something, to raise awareness, to help educate them on a subject, through down to the brochure level content that might be the last thing that they do before they want to book a meeting or get in touch. So we have the ability to host all of it, but more importantly, track it and understand who's using what, who's accessing what, who's saving what, who's downloading what, so that we can pass all of that into whatever back-end systems you might use. So things like marketing automation systems or your CRM like Salesforce, so that you can use that information either for follow-up marketing activity or for follow-up sales conversations, to help you have better conversations and better communications going to those visitors. And
I think it is those platform analytics and the visitor insights for me that make the platform special again, in the sense of you not only know where the visitor's been, how long they've dwelled in the platform for, what content they've engaged with, maybe what they bypassed and what needs optimizing. It gives you that opportunity to improve and optimize over time as well. But then having the ability to know exactly what they engage with, literally on a zone by zone or product by product or basis, is the gold dust that then really does enable you to pull people through that sales funnel. So I think you touched on it then, but it's a really important point to emphasise that with a lot of clients we work with these days, depending on whether they are trying to generate awareness, interest, desire, action, whatever it may be, the sales funnel we speak about in the modern B2B buyer is increasingly complex, of pulling people through it. And a lot of people do want to educate themselves in their own time at a time that suits them. And unless you have a really, really robust content strategy within your business, how else do you do that at the minute? And Virtual Visitor again gives you the opportunity to do that, personalise their journey, understand what's working for them, understand what they engage with, but then also pass that seamlessly through to the sales team as well. So as well as being an opportunity to market yourselves and show off and showcase your products and services or your expertise, I think the value it can offer the sales teams at businesses as well is strong, really strong.
Well, we've set out with that in mind, haven't we?
Yeah.
I think that's one of the big differences, is that we've said from the very beginning we want to make a difference to where somebody wants to generate leads and generate business from it. We want to make a meaningful difference to that sales team, and we want to be able to evidence that. So it's kind of helped guide the philosophy of everything that we've done from the very beginning.
Yeah. I think that's probably enough as an introduction to Virtual Visitor. What I will say is watch this space. There's going to be some really interesting developments in the months that come and in the run up to Christmas. for sure, as live environments begin to come to life and as the pipeline builds further, and we build out our own brand and our own presence. But it's something for me that's been a really exciting journey to go on, bringing something that is so new to the forefront of our clients' imaginations as well. And it's been really interesting working with our clients. So thanks to the clients that have also taken the time to have the meetings with us to stress test things and challenge us as well to think around the issues that we've had so far. So watch this space. Some exciting times to come. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.